Some of the questions may not need addressing because it's outside of the syllabus of this class, this course here. Now, it's not that I don't want to answer questions not related to the course. It's that yoga is a very, very big topic. If we continue to expand and address all of these issues, this course may never end. A course base usually we have a structure, we have a syllabus. Now within that syllabus, we try to find the key ingredients in this course so you start to actually understand more about yoga. Now, of course, it is not complete. Okay, if you want to have a complete yoga course, that may take you decades to do. Because part of it is also the maturity of the body. Sometimes it's just that our mind and the body doesn't really connect. That means there is still some kind of disconnect between your body and what your mind wants to achieve. Yoga ultimately is an exercise of the mind. It's a mental exercise. Because if, let's say, I want to raise my arms up, yes, it starts from the mind. If the mind doesn't have that direction, you can never raise your arm. So mind always comes first before the action. So mind and body, the connection needs to be there, and that is yoga. When your mind and your body doesn't connect, that means the maturity of your practice is still lacking. Okay? It's not a good or bad, it's not a criticism. This is the way that we all need to progress. Therefore, a lot of these questions, etc., we may not cover in introductory course. It will be covered in other courses or maybe covered sometimes in the future. It takes time. It takes time to go through that. Let's say you want to explain what is marriage to a kindergartner. A kindergarten kid, you say, oh, let's say teacher, what is marriage? How would you explain? And then if you explain to a high school teenager, how would you explain? And when you explain to a university graduate, and then you even explain to someone who may be in their 30s, how would you explain? The explanation may be different. Yes? It's the same thing with a lot of questions. They are very good questions, but the exploration of that takes time. Sometimes I may or may not give you the university answer. Sometimes I might only give you the kindergarten answer. And that is why, because it's a long process, it's never ending. The yoga journey is never ending. We can never be perfect, but we aim for perfection, but we don't need to be perfect. Everyone understand that? The first one is in open legs pose, like Trikonasana, Virabhadrasana. I assume it's Virabhadrasana 2, Parshvakonasana and Parshuttanasana. How is the back foot supposed to press in the final pose? Okay. Now, what is the back foot? Anyone here or on the screen, can you tell me what is your back leg doing? What is the back foot doing? More specifically, the question is about the back foot. What is the back foot doing? The action point is you push your back heel, correct? That's the action point. And that for introductory course, that's enough. Now, if we examine, let's say Parshuttanasana, we use a block on the wall and you're going to push into the block. Now, the connection of your heel and the block, that is the outer ankle. And that is where you should be pushing. Okay? That is enough for introductory course. Now, in the future, when you want to feel the back leg, there may be more. So, for example, how do you create your arch in the back foot? And that takes some different, somewhat more mature actions to do that. How you don't hyperextend. How do you make your thigh bone go in? That will be beyond the introductory course. Okay, so in introductory course, we only ask you to push your back heel. When you push your back heel, if you look at the way that we set up the course, to set up the pose, you're pushing is your outer ankle. So your outer ankle is pushing, and that is sufficient for introductory pose. Okay. Now about the hyperextension, I am not a big fan of hyperextension, but I am very wary of hyperextension. That is because I have seen many beginners right from the start, especially people who are very flexible, they tend to have hyperextended knees. So I tend to actually remind people, don't push your knee. To correct for hyperextension, it is not very easy. It's very difficult, and it takes a long time. It takes a long time to reprogram your legs. Maybe Siphon and Alicia, you may have a deeper appreciation. Both of you have hyperextended knees, and both of you have attended the hyper knee classes. What you need to understand is do all the actions that we have taught you. Just be very mindful. You are not pushing from the knee. When you straighten the leg, two actions. One is pushing the heel away from you. Sometimes pressing into the floor. Sometimes, like Supta Padangusthasana, is pushing up to the ceiling. The other one is you are pulling the thigh bone in. We have a course about legs and knees that took about 8 hours. So I think it's 2 hours per class for 4 classes before we finish that. So it's a there are a lot of things that you need to understand in order to do that. Let's say this is your hip here, and this is your foot, right? In between, there is your knee. Now, if you push your knee, let me show this. This is your knee. If you push your knee, your legs is going to be sengye, and you will not have enough strength. That's it. So we are always constantly reminding you, don't push your knee. What you need to do is, if your leg is not engaged, your foot is not engaged, this is the condition. You have no strength. So you push your foot down, push your heel down, you pull your thigh bone up, and then this one becomes tense. So that means you are stretching. When you're stretching, you are straight, but you're not pushing your knee. Even when you're stretching, when you start pushing your knee, that is the problem. Okay? That is probably all you need to understand for introductory pose. So push the heel, pull the thigh bones in to engage the leg, straight leg. And that's it. The other question is about the eyes of the elbow. I assume that's the crease that you're talking about. This is the tip of the elbow. So the eyes of the elbow is here. Now, this is not taught in intro, not even in intro 2. A lot of the times, we don't need to consider this. We need to consider this mostly when you have hyperextended elbows. There is a special way that you should practice if you have hyperextended elbows. Okay? If you don't have hyperextended elbows, you don't need to worry at all. Now, in here, when we do Utthita Hasta, what is the main action points that we have learned in this pose? We learn extend the arms to the side. Yes? We learn to move the shoulder down. When you move the shoulder down, your elbow is relaxed. Move it down. And then we learn how to suck in this up to extend. And then we learn roll the shoulder back. That's it. Okay? Now, in this position, your elbow, for normal people, that is a normal state of being. In this position, your upper arm is external rotation. Your forearm is internal rotation. So the elbow is where it is. You don't need to concern about that. Okay? When you are pushing down into downward facing dog, when you press down, can you see the connection here? When you're going to the side and when you're going to the front, is exactly the same. That is exactly the same. So, in fact, the elbow is not something that we talk about until you are quite into intermediate state. You look at the different joints. The elbow joint is called a hinge joint. Hinge joint means there's only one direction. There's only one direction. The only way that it's going to change is not the elbow. That's why we don't talk about the elbow. The elbow doesn't move. Well, the elbow only moves in one direction. This is the direction, and that's it. What changed it is the upper arm and the forearm. The upper arm and the forearm can change the direction of your elbow, but there is only one direction that it will move. So it will change in the sense that if I roll my upper arm up, now I'm bending this way. If I roll my upper arm back, I'm bending this way. Can you see that? So the elbow itself does not move. Okay, that will be for another day. So in intro course, we don't talk about elbow because you don't need to concern about the elbow. You might concern about the palm. The palm roll down. This is internal rotation of the forearm. The palm roll down. The upper arm roll back and down. This is external rotation. And that's it. And then the elbow is where it is. Okay, you don't need to focus on that in beginner's course. Okay, unless you have hyper elbow, then that is a separate question. Then, in order for you not to hurt yourself, we will give you some stopgap solution, and later on, when your body is more matured, you can correct, like your hyper knee, you can correct for your hyper elbow as well. Okay, but that one is not 5 minutes talk. It's like 10 hours talk. So it's not that I don't want to answer the question. If you want a university answer, it's going to take 10 hours. So today I'm giving you kindergarten answer. So the kindergarten answer is, don't worry about your elbow. Your elbow has only one direction. It's controlled by your upper arm and your forearm. As long as you do your upper arm and forearm correct, nothing to worry about. That is the kindergarten answer, and that's it. Understand?